How will a doctor who paid 5 crore rupees as fees treat a common citizen of this country? How will a doctor who actually claims that he got a certificate that he is EWS category pay 4.5 crore rupees as fees? And what does the system do about it to protect genuine EWS category students for which this benefit is meant to be? There are two students who paid 4.56 crore rupees. Hold your breath. It's 4.56 crore rupees because the fee is $1,06,700 a year. That is 4.56 crore rupees. Hello students. Namaskar. Welcome to Career 360. This is a very, very important advice and information for you. Because what we are about to say is likely to impact the kind of admission that you'll get into a very good public institution in the country. As you all know, in 2019, the Government of India came out with a regulation which reserved certain 10% of the seats through the economically weaker section students category. This was meant to ensure that people who do not have the means to go through proper teaching, proper coaching and don't have means also find themselves into a good public institution because they reserve 10% to them. We all know that SC there is a 15% reservation, scheduled tribes there are 7.5% and OBC 27% reservations, right? All this added together to about 49% reservation. And with this 10%, it became about 59.5% reservation. But most importantly, this was meant to be benefiting those people who cannot afford or do not have the affordability for coaching, good schools, good education and all. And they wanted to prioritize them and give them a decent, opportunity to study in the premier institutions of this country. But only in India this can happen because EWS certificates out there are possibly up for sale. There's a lot of corruption, a lot of bribery that happens because people who don't even have about 60,000 rupees as income, which is minimum sustainable income for anyone to survive in this country, are able to pay about 5 crore rupees as fees to gain a seat. They pay between 1.5 2 crore rupees to 5 crore rupees for the MBBS. And what we have at this point in time is a data for only MBBS. But this is relevant for every single examination that you have because the EWS category is exactly 10% reservation is what you have. And the certificates seem to be getting distributed without actual merit of whether these people actually are EWS or not. To explain to you everything, let me first start with what does EWS category mean? The economically weaker section category means or you need to be earning less than 8 lakh rupees as income over the year. You should not have an agricultural land of more than 5 acres, which means you don't have a property. If you have a flat, it should be less than 1,000 square feet, which means it's something where your family can stay, but you cannot, it's not a big palatial place, right? Or if you have your own home and not a flat, the land should be less than 100 square yards if it's in notified areas and 200 square yards if it is in non-notified areas. The total reservation in the country is 59.5%. But the 10%, as I said, should be EWS category, which essentially means that they should not be having any other reservation anywhere else and should have a lesser income so that the government can prioritize and give reservation to you. Now, once you do that, if you look at the data of how the deemed universities in these countries and who are the students who took admission into these institutions, you suddenly realize a big scam that is exploding. In front of you, I'm showing you a list of colleges where EWS candidates paid more than 1.67 crore rupees to up to about 1 crore of rupees to gain seats because they had an EWS category. They tried to get into a government college, but because maybe it was equally competitive that they could not get into a government college, so they moved from public institutions to private institutions and start getting seats using the EWS category and got a seat in these deemed medical universities. In Wales Medical College, about 11 students went there paying 1.67 crore rupees over the next 5 years. And by the way, this is only the fees. We are not even talking of the hostel fee, the mess charges and other expenditure over the next 5 years. In DY Patil, 12 students went there paying 1.32 crore rupees over the next 5 years. And this is all 2024 data of students who took the NEET examination, went to public institution or attempted to get into public institutions. The score or merit was not good enough, so they moved and took admission in a deemed private medical college. In Sri Balaji, about 5 students went there, paying 1.27 crore rupees over the next 5 years. And again, let me repeat, it doesn't include the hostel, mess and other living expenditure. Now, if you're earning just 8 lakh rupees per annum, if you don't have property, if you don't have any asset base, how do you pay so much of fees? Either the EWS certificate is completely wrong or the way these people are is completely different. And the only option that you actually, when you look at it very closely, you will understand is that these people actually inherently are rich people, but they got a EWS certificate in their hand to get into a public institution, failed to get there, and because they didn't have an option, they went to a private medical college, paid the fee because they always were rich. It is just that the EWS category certificate that they got in their hand was a lie, a false, it's a scam. And in all, when you look at it, last year, when we examined 54 deemed medical colleges, 378 students from economically weaker sections category students took a seat in these 54 medical universities, paying between 1 crore to 1.67 crore rupees of fees over the next 5 years. So all put together, these guys would be spending about 1.5 crore rupees over the next 5 years when they didn't have any income, no property, no asset, no income, but they could pay 1.5 to 2 crore rupees as fee and living expenditure. And overall, if you look at it, as I said, we examined 54 deemed private medical colleges, 378 students took seats in these 54 medical colleges. Average fee paid by them is about 1 crore plus, all across the board. If you add the living expenditure, it becomes 1.5 crore. And these are 4% of the seats that are there in these deemed medical universities. Now, if these people got here, you can very well imagine how many students would have used the same EWS to get into public institutions, though they were rich. These are people who are denied, mind you. So people who are rich, but still got a certificate and got into a public institution, taking away the genuine EWS category student. The other thing that happens in this whole thing is, it creates a problem in terms of merit. For example, a student who got into a college in Kanchipuram, medical college in Kanchipuram, his rank was 11,51,000. Now, the total number of students who qualified was 13 lakh. You only have 1 lakh seats, but 13 lakh students qualified. Of the 13 lakh, this student is bottom of the list at a rank of 11.51 lakh. But he got a seat in a deemed private university by paying that 1.5 crore. Similarly, about 6 students, what we notice, 6 students got a rank of more than 10 lakh, which means again, it's the bottommost of the bottom. 10 lakh rank. But they got into a medical college where there are only 1 lakh seats, but 6 students with 10 lakh rank who are also EWS category students got in there. Now, this scam doesn't stop here. It is not just about 1 crore and 1.67 crores. We started looking at the NRA category students. When you look at the NRA category students, there are 2 students who paid 4.56 crore rupees. Hold your breath. It's 4.56 crore rupees because the fee is $1,06,700 a year. That is 4.56 crore rupees. There were 2 students who paid $85,000 a year, which is about 3.64 crores over the next 5 years to get into a medical college in this country. But originally they were EWS students. Then they jumped onto the NRA category, paid the dollar money, which means they also had the ability to pay in dollar terms. And the fee that was paid is about 4.5 crore rupees, just the fees. We're not talking of the hostel, mess and living expenditure still. And these are people whose annual income is 8 lakh rupees. Annual income of 8 lakh rupees. That is a 60-year income for them. If they don't eat anything and save every single penny, it's 60 years of income for them. And these people move from EWS category to NRA category to claim a seat. In fact, if you look at the overall data, in 20 deemed medical colleges, 33 students who were originally EWS category students paid about 4.57 crore and below and got through the NRA quota. They were originally NRA quota students who converted themselves to EWS and got into a deemed medical university. And that is a tragedy of this whole thing, that this EWS category is completely being abused because the certificates possibly are up there for sale. We thought it might be only for deemed, so we also looked at a couple of state counselling to understand that. We looked at Uttarakhand. Again, in Uttarakhand also, you actually had a lot of students who paid about 1 crore plus kind of a fee. Originally EWS, moved to a private medical college through the Uttarakhand state counselling, paid 1 crore 5 lakhs plus only as fees to get into a private medical college. Even in West Bengal, the same thing. So any state private counselling, what I'm saying is that this, though we examined the data of the deemed universities to understand and the amount of corruption that is there in the system, in a couple of states that we examined where we downloaded the state counselling data, even there in private medical colleges there where the fees is 1 crore and above, you actually had EWS category students claiming that seat. Now, if you look at this whole thing, though the 10% reservation is there for EWS, there is a great possibility that more than half of them, or at least half of them, are genuinely not EWS category students, claimed a certificate and are taking away the right from genuine EWS candidate students, and because they're false claimants who bought a certificate. People with no money nor assets are paying 1 crore and 5 crore should surprise all of us. but the government seems unfazed about the whole thing. They should be looking at this very, very closely. This also is leading to students with no merit getting into the system, with 10 lakh rank, 11 lakh rank, 11.5 lakh rank. When you talk of 11.5 rank, you're essentially dealing with a student who got over 15-20% marks. And in our system, in 15%, 20% marks, you're a failed student. But somehow you create that qualification benchmark which is lower and lower by the year. And then you sneak in people and make sure that through the money power, they get into a medical college and they will be your doctors at some point in time. Now imagine this question. This is the last question that I'm leaving you with. How will a doctor who paid 5 crore rupees as fees treat a common citizen of this country? How will a doctor who actually claims that he got a certificate that he is EWS category pay 4.5 crore rupees as fees? And what does the system do about it to protect genuine EWS category students for which this benefit is meant to be? I leave this question open to you because this will impact your admission into a good medical college also. So I would leave this question open to you. It is for you to think about it. It is for us to think about it. It is for the government of India to come up with a policy to ensure that EWS category students are protected. And what it does, how it does, it's something it is left for them. But it is very important, very imperative that we deal with this problem right away. Thank you so much. Namaskar.